Now joined by Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. A lot of news dropping on the Detroit front here at the 2022 NFL annual meetings. I mean, does it just feel like Detroit is kind of the big talk today?
I mean, I bumped into Rod Wood yesterday, and I had an inkling, let's call it that this news was coming.
Okay.
It really is a significant thing when you talk about, first of all, Hard Knocks, being able to put the Lions on display, being able to put your head coach, Dan Campbell, on display, which I'm interested to see, not for the reason a lot of other people are. There's a lot of depth to Dan. I know
Yes.
Dan, there's a lot more to him than a throwaway line in a press conference over a year ago. So people are going to understand what he brings to the team, the way he builds culture, toughness into the culture, the way that he works with all the different schemes. I think that's going to be great. You got guys like Jamal Williams who are just going to be camera-ready
Electric.
stars immediately. Jared Goff with his return to Hard Knocks. I think it'll be a fun one, and I think it'll be really insightful to the process that the Lions are going to at a time where, when you lose games over a number of years, people kind of lose sight of what you're actually building. We know the Lions were competitive in every game last year, but how are they doing it? I think that's going to be really cool. And then for Detroit to get the draft in 2024 is a big moment, and not just for the Lions, though obviously you beat the Packers in anything, you have to be happy today, but also for the city of Detroit. I mean, when you think back to, and Rod was saying that on our NFL Network interview, I believe it was 2009 with the Final Four was the last major sports event in Detroit. There was a Super Bowl a number of years before that, but since then the city's been through bankruptcy. There have been a lot of different challenges, and to see the way, and I've been back to Detroit, the way the city's kind of rebuilding itself and being revitalized. Absolutely. I enjoy being in Detroit. It's very walkable downtown. I can stay at a hotel downtown, walk directly over to the stadium. To be able to put that on display is just, it's an awesome opportunity. It's one of those events that every city that has it talks about how great it was later. As long as the weather's good, which I have confidence in that, good luck. It's late April, cross our fingers. But I think it's just going to be a great showcase for the city, and the Lions are going to get a lot out of it.
You mentioned Lions, yes, just 3 wins this year, but entertaining. From my perspective, being from Detroit, watching those games, it was entertaining. National standpoint, being on the outside, I mean, really, how entertaining was it to see that? And could you actually sense just the grit and the toughness the Lions had from an outsider's perspective?
Well, I felt for Dan throughout the course of that process, because I remember talking with him in training camp, and he was just saying, we just got to get off to a good start. We just got to get a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum, and then it's going to roll. So then when I think it's week 2 against the Ravens, and you've got Lamar Jackson beat, and then Justin Tucker makes an 88-yard field goal, or whatever. I'm joking, but it was basically that long.
It was pretty close to 88.
And it just felt like, and just those letdown. But the fact that you're in the games, that's the thing that I think everybody lost sight of. Like when you say 3-win team, in my head it was more wins than that, because you're in every game. You're constantly punching above your weight. To play some of those road games where you're having to run the ball 40 times because you just feel like that's your best chance to win, and they did it effectively. I think all that, there was reason to believe in it. Played better the second half of the season with Dan and Ben Johnson combining, really running that offense. Now Ben's going to be the offensive coordinator, and I think he's another guy that people are going to get to know. A little different personality from Dan, but I think people are going to like Ben as well. And I think there's a lot to build off there. You hope you've hit in free agency. I mean, last year one of the things was the couple of free agent receivers that were brought in didn't hit. I mean, Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams had the concussion, never made it back from that. So you're hoping now with DJ Chark coming in that he's going to be able to kind of fill that same type of a role. You hope that you're hit in the draft, which, as Rod reminded us today, I mean, part of Brad Holmes' superpower that sold him was the draft. That's his entire background.
Developing
so
it,
hit on those draft picks. There's a lot to work with here, regardless of what the big picture is, and Jared Goff in the future, and getting a franchise quarterback in the draft at some point here. In the short term, there's a lot for the Lions to work with.
You mentioned it with how the season ended. You couldn't believe it was just 3 wins. So do you like the way the Lions are approaching free agency and leading up to the draft with a quieter free agency than most?
I wasn't overly surprised, because I don't think that you never build a team through free agency. You can fill some key holes. When you're the Lions, and frankly, you've got a lot of holes on the roster because you're running completely new schemes. You were so young in the secondary last year. Again, the misses in free agency at wide receiver leave you needing additional parts there. You can't fix all of them. And some of the mistakes that people make sometimes are thinking you're going to spend several $100 million and just everything's going to be fixed overnight. It's generally not how it works. You need to get the right type of people first and foremost, and then make sure that you're getting the right players. So it's going to be a draft and develop type of a program. I would anticipate that. That's the way that they intend to build this thing. But they're going to have a lot of opportunities to do that, because you're also thinking the salary cap number is eternal. In other words, every dollar you don't spend this year, you can spend somewhere in the future. You can keep rolling it over and rolling it over. So the fewer resources, relatively speaking, that you spend this year are resources you may have next year when maybe you feel like you are closer to adding 2, 3, 4 parts and really taking that big leap toward contention.
I'm putting you on the spot, though, here, but is there anyone left on the free agency board here that you would like to see the Lions maybe make a go at?
I mean, they could always use another receiver, and there's a bunch of veterans who are sitting out there. Again, I don't know that a Julio Jones or a Jarvis Landry is going to be a fit just for where the Lions are.
Yeah.
There's always third wave guys. There are some right now at the linebacker position, at corner, among others. I'd have to go through the entire depth chart to tell you exactly where. But absolutely, there's going to be free agency, relative bargains out there leading up to the draft, and then coming out of the draft after teams figure out what they did and didn't get. That's kind of where you see some of those signings happen, and there are going to be opportunities. You just hope you pick the right ones.
Okay, a few people here are trying to simplify the Lions' number 2 overall pick to me. You got 2 choices. You pick 2 best choices. If one's not there, you take the other. Who are the best 2 choices for the Detroit Lions in this upcoming draft?
Well, Aiden Hutchinson is the one that I would point to, and that would certainly seem to be the fit, because the Lions have such a good thing going on the offensive line right now, just that nastiness that they have. What they want to do is replicate that on the defensive side of the ball. Well, you can't do that unless you've got really good edge rushers. Obviously, they released Trey Flowers, who was somebody who was a really important locker room leader type of a guy. To bring in a Hutchinson and have him playing off the edge and that attitude and the motor that he brings, all those things, it would seem to be a really good fit. Now, having said that, when you're drafting that high, you don't want to take anything out of the picture. In other words, if you've got offensive tackles sitting there, I know there's not an imminent need, but it's not like you can't always use more good offensive linemen. So there'd be a lot to consider there. There's obviously other edge rushers. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, is a name that you can't overlook, just because everybody seems to be focusing right now on the non-football stuff with Thibodeau and the things he can't do or what he doesn't show on tape. He's a really good player. I mean, he's a rare type of an athlete, and I've spent some time with him. He's very thoughtful. He understands. He understands the optics sometimes of like the things that he says that don't have to do with football. He seems to understand that. He wants to be great. He's never hurt. Clean medical report. There's every reason to think this guy's got the opportunity to be really, really good at the next level. So is the value there at number 2? Potentially. I don't think that you can completely rule that out right now.
You've sold me on Kayvon a little bit there, though. He seems like a favorite of yours, maybe.
Well, just getting to talk with him, because I think sometimes we all fall into the trap of you hear things, somebody else on TV says something, or you read tweets about a guy and you get a certain image of him. But then, just spending time and sitting there and talking football with him and hearing him ask questions about the process and trying to figure out how he can better present certain things. I think that's a really important trait. To understand that you can improve in every aspect on and off the field is a really good trait in young players. So regardless of how much he loves all sorts of other stuff, NFTs and whatever else you might be talking about on it, playing chess, whatever else you might be talking about, he's still really good. He's really, really talented.
Okay, let's bring it back here to the annual meetings real quick. There are some rule changes that are coming into effect. Are you anticipating any other announcements or just big news coming out of here on the ground in Palm Beach?
Really the only one that's left is what's going to happen with overtime. And frankly, we're sitting here, this could change by tomorrow, but we'll see whether we actually get a vote. Because remember, for rule changes, you got to have 24 out of 32 owners vote. It's not the head coaches, it's not the GMs. And from the head coaches and GMs I've spoken to, the vast majority, not all, Mike Tomlin said he's against it, but most of them think the time is right. It makes sense. Let both teams touch the football in overtime, which then would lead to a variety of different competitive considerations there too. Strategy is going to change, just like it did years ago when they went to the current system of you need to score a touchdown or else the other team gets the football. I had one head coach tell me, even though the proposal that's on the table saying if the first team in overtime scores a touchdown and goes for 2, that probably is not going to, it's just too far outside the fabric of the game to actually
pass. It would be great though.
It would be interesting, but this head coach's thought was, watch what happens. Even if we just do the both teams touch it, you'll still see the first team going for 2 more than everybody thinks, because that team won't want to give up its advantage.
Correct.
In other words, if you score a touchdown, kick an extra point,
you allow them to
the other team could score a touchdown, they could go for 2 and win it, and then the game's over. So there's all kinds of different strategy stuff, which is kind of the fun part to talk about with this stuff. But do you do it on the postseason only? Do you do it for regular and post? Do you do it on a 1-year experimental basis, which is how they do a lot of these rules? Those are all the things that they they have to talk through, and I think as everybody knows, there are some owners who would vote no on anything that is a change from the norm. So you're losing a couple votes right off the top, and then you see whether or not it's got the rest of the support at the ownership level.
Do you want to see it change?
I would say this.
Okay.
We all make money by being involved in the NFL. The NFL is an entertainment product. The consumers of that product really, really would like to see Josh Allen touch the football in a playoff game. So to that extent that people are going to like it, that it's going to help TV ratings and make money for everybody, I'm always in favor of what's good for the game.
Spoken like a true professional.